I think Harry wants to go home. I think that he's built the Invictus around going home, the next Invictus all around making nice with his family so he could try to worm his way back in. I truly do believe that there is an ulterior motive there. Hi, all. Welcome to Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield here with Maureen Callahan of The Nerve. And it's killing me, Maureen. Do you love the Justin Timberlake DWI video as much as it's horrible to say out loud? When I hear it leaving my body, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound great. But the Justin Timberlake DUI video is like, I love him again.
You do? Do
I mean,
tell.
when he says white under race, when he's like white to the officer, and then him and the officer both start cracking up, I'm like, oh no, I think that I'm in love with JT all over again.
Here's where I have to disagree with you.
That's good. That's good. That's
I,
what we're about.
yeah, I don't have tolerance for drunk drivers,
Okay, that's such a
especially,
mature answer.
especially wealthy, famous. That's where it gets even more dangerous because if you're a celebrity, they'll let you get away with anything, including leaving a place like the American Hotel in Sag Harbor, which I know well. I'm not saying they're to blame, but like the guy was clearly overserved, you
Right.
know? And my favorite part, first of all, that video is a win for everybody. He tried to stop it from getting released, and it is in the public's interest to
Right.
have that video released. It is partly redacted, and I do wonder if Justin maybe had someone in the car who his wife not would not be thrilled about. You know, if he had another
Oh.
woman in the car, because I don't know why else you redact that thing.
Mhm.
And then thirdly, so the officer approaches the car and says to him, "What are you doing?" And Justin goes, "I'm on a world tour."
I can't. It's so hard.
And it's like the cop isn't asking you what you're doing with your life or
Right.
your failing career. He's asking you, what are you doing rolling through a stop sign and then swerving into a lane that is for oncoming traffic?
Oh my God, it's so humiliating. And it's like, this is what you'd rather do than reunite with NSYNC. You know, he refuses to reunite with NSYNC because he thinks he's better. I mean, little disclaimer here. Kinsey's been to over 20 NSYNC concerts, okay, with along with Michael Schofield, my dad, in all over the world. And so, yeah, I feel like he refuses to do that because he thinks he's better than that.
Mhm.
And he gets drunk and drives and gets thrown in jail. I'm imagining it was a humbling moment. And to your point, you can afford an Uber. You can afford an Uber. You know, you have plenty of money. Um, but he was so sweet and polite to the officers, and I thought I've hated him for years because I thought he was a bit of a jerk. And this showed me that maybe he's not as much of a an as I thought he was. But at the same time, he should know better than to get behind the wheel of a car drunk.
Yeah, I have several thoughts to that. One is exactly right. I think just based on how drunk he was and all the reports of how he was acting that night, including allegedly when he couldn't get his cocktail remade fast enough. So he was doing what a British friend of mine calls mind sweeping, allegedly, which is when any other patron in there turns their back, he was just taking their drink and knocking it back. So I think he went out that night with the express purpose of getting faced, number
Mm.
one. So that tells you, you should say to yourself, you know what? You know what I should do? I should I should schedule an Uber. I should schedule an Uber or call there are taxi cab services out there. He had a friend who was either following him or came to the scene. She's a whole other nut job. But I also feel like this is where publicists earn their money, and this is where I feel like the culture needs to push back. I don't think a grown man who was arrested of wealth and means, arrested for driving drunk in a very wealthy enclave should get a gold star for being polite to a police officer.
Mm.
That is that should just be that is the standard. You
Right.
are polite to a police officer. He was also being polite out of self-interest. You know, he was probably thinking, I can maybe charm my way out of this.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't keep me overnight until I'm arraigned in the morning. I am, after all, Justin Timberlake.
On a world
Um,
tour.
on a but he's always been an in my mind. And on the Nerve, we played a video that he and Jessica Biel, it seems, successfully had scrubbed, although I did find it and we played it. And I don't know if you remember this, but when they got married, somebody commissioned a video, not gonna say who, and at the reception, they played it. And what it was a series of homeless people that a filmmaker had gone and said, I believe this is a friend of theirs. I could be wrong, but I believe it's a friend of theirs. Said to these homeless people, hey, you know Justin Timberlake, right? You know he's getting married. What would you give them if you had money?
Oh my God.
Like what kind of wishes would you like to give them? And the first one that we see, at least on the Nerve, is a homeless man who's missing most of his teeth. And this video was played at his reception to laughter. They
Ooh.
played this video so that all the rich, famous, privileged people in that room could laugh at them.
Oh my gosh, I hate that story. I hate that. I hate that they did that.
Mhm.
Well, it makes me feel less sympathetic every time we see a headline about him cheating on her.
I mean, I don't know what that marriage into, we saw those photos of him with his co-star
New
where they were
Orleans.
out just
Yeah.
brazenly like holding hands,
And remember the Olivia Munn rumors?
Yes, I do. I
I
do. I
mean,
do.
oh
He
my
just,
gosh.
he doesn't, does this seem like a winner?
No,
This was a guy,
no.
remember when he was tipped to leave In Sync, who I was never a fan of those boy bands, but it was so clear that Justin Timberlake was a star and
Mhm.
they were really crafting him as a star. And he went and worked with Pharrell on but what did he do on that first record? He used Britney. He
Yeah.
used Britney in order to launch that career. Britney, who in her memoir wrote that it was Justin when she got pregnant, who was like, allegedly her account pushing for an abortion,
Right.
which she went along with.
Oh, well, I will tell you that I thought he was going to be my husband one day. And
You dodged a bullet, Kins. You
I dodged
dodged
it.
a
I guess
bullet.
I did. I've met him twice. The first time he was horrible, and then the second time he was
Do
really
tell, do tell, please. I got
I
another
mean, the
story.
first time I was crying uncontrollably outside of a mall in Pasadena, Texas.
How old were you?
I was 13. My
Okay.
my jeans were from Target. They had like a track pants line down them, and I was just like so happy to meet him and
And then what
crying.
did he do
Wouldn't
or
even
not
look
do?
up to say hi to me, where everybody else was like, "Where are you from? Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here." And this is like before TRL. This is before there anything. I was like an online girly and knew of them from Germany, and I loved them because I'd seen their German music videos. And so like they hadn't even picked up yet in the States. And my whole family went. My little brother was a toddler on my dad's shoulders dancing to I Want You Back. Like it was so embarrassing. And then the second time I met him at the movie premiere of Just in Time with Amanda Seyfried. Am I saying her name right? Seyfried? Seyfried?
Seyfried? I don't know. It's a rough one. But
Yeah.
wait, Justin Timberlake was in a movie called Just in Time.
Oh, my sign said, Justin, I'm just in time to meet you. He liked that.
Okay, you know what this reminds me of, Kinsey? I want to kill him for that, for what he did to the 13-year-old you. Because on tomorrow's Nerve, or tonight's Nerve, so Wednesday's Nerve at night, Rob Shooter and I are talking about Chappell Roan,
Oh,
who made headlines because she allegedly sicked her security team on an 11-year-old girl at a hotel restaurant in Brazil. This 11-year-old girl, a massive fan, who didn't even approach Chappell Roan, just sort of walked by to get a look at her idol. And Chappell Roan made a huge error. You want to know why? That little girl's father is Jude Law.
yeah.
And her stepfather is a soccer star in Brazil. And her mother is very upset. And the mother made a statement. The stepfather made a statement. And it took Chappell Roan a day to get her story out there, which tells me that this child's account is the correct account.
Right.
And it makes me so angry because aside from these celebrities, like Chappell Roan almost didn't make it. Like she hung in there and finally she found people who knew what to do with her.
Right.
But that stuff can go away just as quickly. And the people who make sure you have the fame you need, like Oxygen, because otherwise it's just, you're an empty vessel. You're a hole that will never be filled, are your fans.
Yeah.
And be nice to them. It's not like I'm saying, like, with Justin, it's like bare bones. Be respectful to a cop who's pulling you over. Be respectful to your fans, especially little children, because there is nothing when you see little kids light up. This is before they're going to really know the truth about these people, right? Once you know the truth, it's a whole other game. But there is nothing more pure and sweet than to see a little child with like stars in their eyes, just in awe of somebody. And Chappell Roan, just what she did, she just stole that little girl's, like, this is what the other thing I said. For the celebrity themselves, it's another fan encounter. So you proceed accordingly. For the person, especially the child who is a fan, that's something they will remember forever. That little girl could have had a lovely memory, and instead she went home like bawling her eyes out. Why? Because Chappell Roan needs to feel important?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the sweet element of it, which I agree with, but Serena Williams' husband was recently talking about investments he was making, and it was in social media for teenage girls, because he was talking about the power of teenage girls. And if you think about, Justin Bieber and KOTB, all of the,
K-pop.
Yeah, I mean, K-pop. I mean, teenage girls really do have a lot of power online, and they spend a lot of money. And so, yeah, to our point too, I also think you're making a huge mistake professionally if you risk alienating this demographic. If she's got a bunch of girlfriends that are going to be upset for her, now you've got a bunch of girls online that are like, no, don't like this girl. So you've got to be careful. But yeah, I know with that story specifically, she was just trying to do a drive-by, just trying to do a nice little drive-by.
She just wanted to get she's a child. She's harmless. She just wanted to get a closer look. She was respectful. She wasn't even like, if Chappell Roan wanted to be left alone and didn't want any attention, order room service, sister, okay?
Yeah.
Spare me. Oh, I can't possibly bear to be looked at. It's like those people like Jennifer Lopez, the stories are legion. Like, you're not even allowed to look at her if you're like even working on her show. If you're like a stagehand or you're a tech person, you're not even supposed to look at her.
Yuck. Well, let's talk about another villain, Meghan Markle. I know this doesn't surprise you. And actually, these stories have been circulating for a while, but it was fun to see Page Six go back and just confirm. Page Six is saying that Harry and Meghan's Montecito neighbors are over them. They are avoiding them, says an area source. No one wants to be seen with them. It's not hate, they said. It's just a growing awareness that they're takers with zero self-awareness. Everyone's exhausted by them. Doesn't this remind you of the stories we've heard over the last few years about Meghan borrowing someone's townhome, asking if they can use someone's vacation home? Can we use your private jet? I mean, takers is such a great way to describe these two.
Hey, President Biden, can we hitch a ride on Air Force One?
Oh my God.
I think takers is a great word. My favorite descriptor for them is destroyers.
That's your descriptor. Yeah, that's your go-to.
Yeah.
I love that about you.
And they destroy everything and everyone they come in contact with. I mean, this Netflix deal and their relationship with Ted Sarandos is just the latest fatality. It's amazing to me because, when those two landed in Montecito, I bet there was a lot of excitement and a lot of buzz around who would be invited to the home, who in town would invite them over, how, they might fold themselves into life there. They have two small children, which automatically sort of builds you a social network. And for people to say that not only do people not want to be anywhere near them, two of the most famous people on the planet. I mean, that's when you get into areas like that with so much money and so much power and celebrity, it's like, it's not enough to be famous. Like if you're an awful person, you will be treated accordingly. And the killer line to me in that piece, that quote, it's not hate, it's indifference. I've always believed this, that like the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Like if I cease to care, you wield zero power over me, right?
That's
So,
crazy. That I woke up this week and I don't know what the story was, but it was a Meghan Markle story. And that's exactly how I felt. And I thought, I'm kind of sick of this.
mm-hmm,
I'm sick of her. She's not
mm-hmm,
an interesting person. And
mm-mm.
that is such a great point to, or that's such a great way to describe how I feel about what's going on with them. And it's my job to cover them, and I'm going to continue to cover them, but they are not compelling people and they're not offering the world anything. And takers is exactly what they are. All they do is take, they don't contribute. I mean, I was talking to Dickie Arbiter, the Queen's press secretary, Prince Charles
Mm-hmm.
at the time too, and he was talking about how Diana used to do these charity events, and people would pay thousands of dollars so that you could sit like 12 tables away, but you could say you had dinner with Princess Diana. And I was like, that's exactly what Meghan Markle's doing, except it's not for charity. You get to sit in a room 12 tables away from her in Australia, but no money's going to charity. It's just going to her. And it feels so gross. I mean, they are just a waste of oxygen, really.
Well, I actually do think there's a charity involved. It's just that Meghan's the charity case. Meghan and Harry are the charity cases. You know, she invited herself to that symposium or that
Mhm.
weekend retreat for women in Australia, and then she demanded to be paid $1 million for it. I mean, class all the way. They are running out of money.
Mhm.
That Netflix deal, which was reported to be about 100 million, was probably closer to 60 million. And that money wasn't just for them. It was for production costs and staffing and publicists and everything. That money, they burned through that pretty quickly. That they have a mortgage on that mansion. The
Yeah.
king didn't buy that mansion for them outright. They're so stupid. They're so stupid. If they had just played the game between Catherine regrettably having been sidelined by her illness, between the crisis engulfing the monarchy with Andrew, if those two had just played the game and been the backup players, they would have emerged as not just stars, but as really valuable royals. They would have, their own interest would have compounded over time, but they're not long-term thinkers. They're takers, not givers, and they are destroyers, not creators. And so I think what we're seeing, it's like the formation of the black hole, and they're going to be sucked into the black hole. And we know they're getting desperate, or that Meghan's getting increasingly desperate, because we are this close to getting a full-on look of Lily's face.
Yeah, that is a very good way for us to judge how desperate Meghan Markle is getting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw out two headlines because I want to ask you a very specific question. So we've got the headline from Deadline this week that drops right after the Variety article. The Variety article is very damaging. Netflix hates Harry and Meghan. Ted's not taking Meghan's calls without an attorney on the phone. And then we have the Deadline article, which you and I know the Sussex strategy that was dropped when it was dropped to try to shut up the Variety, to try to stop us from talking about the Variety article, which says Harry and Meghan have a new project in the works. My question to you is, based on these two, and we'll go through each article individually, but based on those two articles side by side, does it make you question anything that's in the Variety article? Because it does kind of contradict a little bit of what Variety says. Variety is like, Netflix can't stand them. They're washing their hands. And then here comes Deadline going, wait, just wait. They've got another project on the horizon.
No, it actually makes me believe that the Variety article is rock solid reporting. Ted Sarandos is arguably the most powerful man in Hollywood, and Variety is not going to piss him off. All the legalese was in there. Was he joking when he said he wouldn't get on the phone with Meghan without a lawyer on the line? That's not a denial that he said it. It's just the intent, right? That one could infer.
Right.
When this stuff happens, they're like children. They're like children. They can't just just let it go. Like, don't respond to it. The world will move on in 2 seconds. Another story will catch our attention. They have to push back and say, oh, no, 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 we're great successes. You know what? We actually have, who we've got a project with? Netflix. That headline just landed in my email like 2 minutes before I started talking to you. And I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And it's this kind of like they're playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess, and it's only going to further alienate Netflix. It's just gonna underscore, like, if anybody in the C-suite is having a second thought, like, is it right to publicly cut ties with these two? Antics like that only ratify decisions like those.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Variety article is incredibly critical. And there's Meghan on a red carpet, like rubbing her friend's stomach, hanging on her.
So
These I love Maureen,
classless.
I love you. You know I love you. I would not walk around an event holding your hand. And I love the hell out of you. Do you know
No,
what
I
I mean?
know you do. And yes, I know exactly what you're saying, Kinsey. It's so, but we have this guy who comes on the nerve who's amazing. You have, I believe, Scott
Yeah,
Rouse,
yeah.
and we have Mark Bowden,
Hmm.
the body language experts. And Mark calls stuff like this trophy behavior. And I love this phrase.
Yeah.
And it dates back to ancient times, and it typically involves the head, when, warriors would cut the head off of a slain enemy and hold the head up as their trophy. It's their trophy. And in that footage, Meghan was treating this woman's pregnant belly as her trophy. She was all over it. She was like rubbing it with both hands. She was like making sure she got in the frame with the belly. I mean, the friend was a prop.
Yeah.
The friend was that's not a friend. And Meghan is incapable of having friends. She's incapable. That woman served a purpose that night. That purpose was to show that not everyone hates Meghan.
Mm.
There's one person in the world who can stomach her still. I mean, to circle back to Montecito, Oprah has not been seen in their vicinity for a very long time. Gwyneth Paltrow has a house up there. I believe she's selling, but she's not palling around with Meghan. They're not going to get those smash burgers together in the middle of a day. I think Rob Lowe and his wife they do live up there. They have no
You think like,
interest.
and oh, we've talked about this before, but Katy Perry's now dating Justin Trudeau. I mean, I can't
No,
believe.
no, 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 no. But think about this. Think about this. Justin Trudeau, the Trudeau circles, the political circles in Canada, Jessica Mulroney, like
Well, she
Meghan's
was
toxic up there.
when she was best friends with Justin's ex-wife. They did pal around, and she's no longer friends with Justin's ex-wife, which is why I figured she would worm her way into the Katy Perry
No, I
dynamic.
don't think so. I don't think so. I think that the
She's
word
burned
has
too
gotten
many
around.
bridges.
And when Ted Sarandos, the Variety piece is remarkable, not just for what it reported, but that it exists.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this because the first piece I ever wrote against Meghan Markle was in the immediate aftermath of the Oprah interview,
Was that the
which was
toddlers and tiaras?
no, that was a response to like the Cut interview,
Mm.
but this was like the one that they had done like a few months after Megxit. They were freshly planting their roots in the United States, and I caught so much for that piece, and I was called a racist and all kinds of terrible things.
Sorry.
Outlets used to be afraid to criticize her for that very reason. You would get tarred as a racist and a misogynist. And, Vanity Fair really broke the seal last summer with their American Hustlers cover with those two on the front. And Variety went a step further. That exists, says that nobody's afraid of these two anymore. Nobody thinks anyone's going to take it seriously if Meghan says you're a racist.
Mm. Yeah, because she's thrown the word around so often. And also I think because they never showed us any proof or gave us any details about the British royal family, it kind of made the original accusation irrelevant. Because, I mean, Harry goes and lies and says that they never said it in the first place. So it
Mhm.
almost just takes the power away from the accusation to begin with.
And again, like the way in which the Variety piece had to qualify, like Ted Sarandos saying he would never be on the phone with Meghan without a lawyer on the other line. They had to say, well, it was unclear if he was joking or not, which is the same kind of legal protection slash consideration Harry could have afforded his family members. If that was in fact a joke about who the baby would resemble more closely, Harry or Meghan, it just could have been a joke. It
Right.
just could have been a joke,
Right.
but Meghan sat there and with, her best saucer eyes, and she didn't even know who Harry was till 5 minutes ago. You mean
No.
Britain's got a royal family? Are you kidding me? Sure. I mean, my picture surfaced of me beaming outside Buckingham Palace when I was 12, but we're American. We don't know from royals. I didn't know who this guy was.
Your skincare might be more toxic than the food you eat. Just like choosing healthy food, we need to be careful about what we put on our body. I've become hyper aware of every product I use, reading labels, researching ingredients, realizing just how many toxic chemicals we let into our daily routine. Check the label on your moisturizer. It reads like a lab report. Swap your toxic moisturizer for Cow Guy's Tallow Balm. I actually got some and it's delicious. A natural hydrating balm with ingredients you can actually pronounce. It's safe and more effective than conventional alcohol or water based lotions, and your skin will be glowing. Tallow Balm was used for generations before Big Pharma ruined skincare. Use it as a lotion on your hands, arms, legs, face, even your lips. You can use it for eczema, psoriasis, dry, or normal skin as an everyday moisturizer. Plus, it's American made and rancher owned in the great state of Texas. All the great things come from Texas. Hey, it's the best tallow balm you can find. Search up cowguys.com to get your tallow balm and get a free mini tallow balm. No special code needed. That's 3 or 4 months of moisturizer for just $34. Search cowguys.com to grab free tallow balm with your order. Thanks, guys. Let me mention some of the other things that the Variety article says to get your opinion on. Meghan asked for changes to be made under the guise of not upsetting the royal family, but in reality, she just wanted to protect some exclusives for Harry's book. That sounds totally legit. That sounds exactly like something she would do.
Totally tracks. And
Yeah.
in that Variety piece, or maybe it was the New York Post over the weekend, there's discussion about, you know, Ted wanting to believe that she was telling him the truth, and perhaps other people high up at Netflix being like, this trick is playing everybody. Like, Netflix signed them to that monster deal. They had been taking meetings all over Hollywood with Apple, with Disney, with everybody. And, they turn around after cutting them this huge check and this big announcement to all of this fanfare. And these two are sitting with Oprah Winfrey giving it away for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harry's publishing the fastest selling memoir of all time, giving it away to Penguin Random House. Like, what's going to be left for Netflix? And then when these two do finally get their show going, their docuseries, whatever, they're clashing with directors. They're saying what can be in it and what can't be in it. I mean, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. Netflix cuts you a check like that. That is for your pound of flesh.
Yeah.
Make no mistake.
Exactly. I agree with you. What about this? I thought it was interesting that Meghan's attorneys replied to Variety saying that this was a calculated play on misogynistic characterizations of Meghan bossing her husband around. They talk about Meghan having these meetings with Netflix, and whenever Harry would try to talk or would try to insert something, she would touch him on the shoulder or on the leg, shut him up, and redirect. Maureen, we've literally seen her do that. The fact that her attorneys would write and dismiss this, whenever she does Zoom meetings with Harry, we watch her shut him up by touching him and then redirecting the conversation. I mean, have you seen that yourself?
We've all seen it. We've seen it on walkabouts. We've seen it whenever they're out in public. We've seen her grab his arm, move him around, turn him, like, again, treat him like a trophy, like a little prop. We
Yeah.
saw it, one of my favorite examples at the Kevin Costner
Mm,
benefit for first responders. And Harry was on stage with somebody else and talking directly to them. And Meghan, who was allegedly told not to come on stage, came on stage and basically like patted him on the back, like, hey, I'm over here. And he turned and he was like, oh, it's you again. And like turned right around.
so
Like, we've
awkward.
seen her grabbing for microphones. We've seen her grabbing for trophies that aren't hers
Oh,
at polo matches. So yeah, I'd love to know who this lawyer is. I've never heard of him. That doesn't mean anything, but I think she's only got one right now. Misogynistic. Listen, she's got to go a step down from racism now.
yeah.
So now we're going to try misogyny. No one's buying that either. No one is buying it. Now we're all sexist. Now we just hate Meghan. We
Yeah.
just hate you. That's
Right.
it. You're a
Uh,
very hateable person. You make it very easy.
and I know the answer to this one, but Megan's pushing back on this story that she exits out of Zoom meetings when she doesn't like what's being said. And they specifically say like she would drop out of a Zoom meeting and then someone would be reprimanded at Netflix. So she'd drop out a couple of hours later, somebody would have to sit through a meeting where they learned that Meghan was unhappy about something that was said. Meghan's reaction was, I've got small kids. Like you and I also know she has multiple nannies. Don't you think that those nannies would have their heads chopped off if her kids bursted into a room like she's claiming they did? Like, I think she is having a hissy fit over Zoom.
You know, people with talent don't behave this way because they don't have to, because they're serious people who are interested in producing things. I increasingly think that a lot of this it's not just that they're spoiled and entitled and brats and emotionally immature. I believe in both of their cases. Just my opinion, they seem very personality disordered. They seem to bring out the worst in each other, as evidenced by their shrinking social circle. But I sometimes wonder if all of this stuff isn't just a distraction. Like, she's probably also leaving meetings because she's realizing she's in way over her head.
Whoa, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know because there's a lot of the feedback we got from Spotify and Netflix, but mostly Spotify, was that she really lacked creativity. She lacked idea. I mean, archetypes is someone else's idea. She lacked
Oh, I
creativity.
didn't know that.
Yeah, she lacked creativity, she lacked ideas, and then she refused to go all the way when they did come up with a campaign or they did come up with a good idea. She'd back up and she'd rethink about it. So like I think you're totally on the money there, that she might realize that she's out of her depth. The chat GPT is not working fast enough for her, or whatever. And that might be why she dips. Is this the same story you were talking about dropping in your inbox? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle producing Polo drama in the works at Netflix. Is that what you were talking about? Okay, so the streamers developing a Polo themed drama, which the Sussexes are executive producing under their Netflix deal. It comes from the duo's Archwell Productions. And this is what kills me: Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage's fake empire. I love Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage. I love the OC. I love Gossip Girl. What the hell are they doing, Maureen? My spirit is crushed here.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I think this press release was written by someone who is employed by Harry and Meghan, because Kinsey, why wouldn't Netflix, after all of this, Ted Sarandos won't get on a phone with her allegedly without a lawyer on the other line. They were saddled with $10 million worth of as ever merchandise, which they were paying for the storage. The latest I read was that Netflix shipped it back to Harry and Meghan. They were like, it's your problem now. It's your expense now to store this stuff or try to unload it. She's leaving meetings on a Zoom. If you did that at your job, you would be fired. You would be fired.
I would. I would.
So what Netflix thinks is a good idea is to get in bed with these two again, these two destroyers. And not only that, but do a scripted version of a series
that failed.
No, it didn't just fail. I mean, it was like a nuclear bomb. Kinsey, that thing wound up in Netflix's least watched shows of, I believe, 2025. I mean, it was an embarrassment. It was a huge black eye. You're going to tell me they're going to throw good money after bad with those two?
Also, like Harry refused to promote it too. Remember, like normally, if you want something to win, like if you want something to be a success, we saw it with Spare. You do one or two at least sit down interviews where you promote it. He wanted nothing to do with the Polo reality show.
Well, also wasn't the deal they were supposed to be in it? And I would guarantee you they had promised at the outset that they would in order to get it green lit. But they're not honest brokers. Like, you cannot trust a word that comes out of their mouths. Like, they talk out of both sides of their mouths. So they can say something all day long. It doesn't mean they're going to do it. And what Netflix was saddled with was an unwatchable piece of like, nobody in America, like, Meghan should know this. She's American. Nobody in America cares about Polo.
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah. And then we already have two projects backed up. So why would you greenlight a third when Meet Me at the Lake hasn't come to fruition, the wedding date hasn't come to fruition? I mean, I guess what upset me the most is, and what gave it legitimacy in my book was Joshua Schwartz. I was like, oh no, I like love his shows. Um, but maybe you're right. Maybe this is just them, trying to distract from the variety piece with something that is going to sit on a shelf for years at a time, like Meet Me at the Lake. We've been talking about Meet Me at the Lake for 3 years now.
Remember, she also had that animated show for
Pearl,
Netflix, Pearl, which never came to fruition either, and
which
which
I
was
think
apparently a
actually,
stolen idea.
that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, that was a cute idea, but when you have an author that has proof that she had this idea years ago and is threatening to sue you, how do you make that? You can't. But they
You
wouldn't
know,
admit it.
yeah, I think this is a lot of the source of the rage and a lot of the like, well, I'll show you by releasing another press release, which never amounts to anything. You know, they're coming to the end of the road here. They've exhausted their podcast options. Meghan has now had two failed podcasts. They've exhausted streamers, Netflix. They have proven themselves to be, as you said, like they're not creative people. They're not original thinkers. They, again, this is why I call them destroyers, because they're incapable of creation, which is a very it's a positive thing. You know, it's normally a very positive thing to create, and they're just they want to be players in at least she does. I don't really know if he knows what I think. He just wants to go home.
I know.
That's what I think. I think he realizes that this extended experiment slash temper tantrum is has just it's over. It's ended badly. There's nowhere to go. The only option Meghan's got left is her divorce memoir, because that is not only moving the story forward. She owes a book, I believe, to Penguin Random House, and that will be her next quote unquote attempt at reinvention. Oh, she could go see her father. She could do
Yeah,
that.
we would appreciate that. No, I think you're right. And I don't believe the narrative that, I mean, I don't know. I should ask you about this too. I think Harry wants to go home. I think that he's built the Invictus around going home, the next Invictus all around making nice with his family so he could try to worm his way back in. I truly do believe that there is an ulterior motive there, but I don't believe that there's any encouragement from the royal family or the British government. And that's what I'm reading
Mm-hmm.
actually from some of your colleagues, God love them. But
Mm-hmm.
the idea that if Keir Starmer's government wants them to come back, to me, that's Keir Starmer's government sabotaging the British royal family, which maybe they are. I mean, I know that the Labour Party notoriously does not necessarily like the idea of a royal family. So do you have a take? Because I do agree with you that Harry wants to go home. I don't think Meghan would ever go home with him, but I agree that Harry wants to go home. I just don't know if the UK government or the royal family would encourage that necessarily.
Well, I think the most important cohort here is the British people, who have zero appetite for it. And they are not yet at the state of indifference. They actively loathe these two. They see them for who they are. They've caused no amount of pain to the late Queen, who was adored. And I think it's an inauspicious moment for them as well, because the Andrew crisis has only further endangered the monarchy. You know, you have a nation going, exactly what are we paying for here?
Yeah.
What are we paying for here? And, you know, William's going to do everything he can to save it. But, you know, William also, the messaging has been extremely consistent and extremely resoundingly clear. William wants nothing to do with his brother. And that's that.
All right. Well, Maureen Callahan of The Nerve, I'll see you later this week. I'm excited to
Yes. We're
agree with
excited
us.
to have you on the Nerve this week. It's going to be great.
Agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend, and go give Maureen a follow as well. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I love your insight.
Thanks for having me. It's always the most fun discussing these two. And I loved our jesting conversation. And I feel for you at 13 with
Oh,
JT.
I'm gonna send you the picture when he was nice to me of us because I
Okay.
look like I've wet myself.
Oh, Kinsey, again, you dodged a bullet. You
I
dodged a
did.
bullet.
All right, bye guys.